Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Kimberly Cloud Show. I'm your host, Kimberly Cloud. Today, we got a very special guest for the show. Thank you for your service, Army, right? Army
Yes, ma'am.
veteran. Okay,
Army
can you go
veteran.
ahead and introduce yourself and tell me, go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell me about your past leading up into your present. I'll let you
Yeah,
have the floor.
absolutely. My name is Eric Gillis, and I thank you, Kimberly, for the opportunity to be here. Yeah, I am a very simple Southern boy who's from the Panhandle of Florida, and I grew up in just a wonderful family. Like my mom and dad were married until my dad passed away. Grandparents were married over 50 years until my grandfather passed away, and so just grew up in a really nice, structured home. And some along the way, I developed a passion for basketball. That's what I thought I was going to do with my life. I wanted to play basketball.
How
And so,
early did you develop your passion?
so about sixth grade is whenever I really committed to that because I was done with playing other sports. Basketball was what captivated me. And so I'm not naive. I'm 5'11", not athletic, but I wanted to go play somewhere. And so I had opportunities to, and an Army recruiter came to my school when I was a senior in high school. And this was in September, August of 2002. And so the Army recruiter came, and he was someone I knew. We grew up together in church. He was older than me, but I knew him. And so he came to me and he said, "Hey, Eric, can you introduce me to some of the kids here, especially ones you think might want to go in the Army?" And so I introduced him to some people. And one day he made this passing remark. He said, "Man, you should join the Army because I also wanted to go into ministry." And so he goes, "Man, you could be a chaplain's assistant where you could do ministry, but you can be in the Army." And I laughed it off. I go, "Listen, Chad was his name. Chad, I want to go play basketball. I have nothing to do that." But as a good Southern boy does, I said, "I'll pray about it." And so I went home and I genuinely committed it to prayer. And I felt this greater calling on my life. I felt like this purpose of trying to do something greater than what I was thought I was going to pursue. And so the next day I called him and he was shocked, as was I, to give him that phone call. And I said, "Hey man, I think I want to join the Army." And of course, this was at the height of everything that was happening overseas. I joined the Army September 12th, 2002, almost a year after 9/11.
You
Um,
did a year earlier than me.
yeah, yeah. So is that when you went in
I went
2003?
in January 14th, 2003.
Okay. Well, we might have went off to basic at the same time. I went to basic in June of 2003 when I graduated high school. Um, but you know how recruiters are then. Recruiters are funny. They'll promise you the world. I was a naive 17-year-old at the time. I
Me
believed
too.
he told
Me
me.
too.
So he goes, "Hey," and he's a friend. I didn't think he would lie to me. And I go, "Hey," he goes, "I can promise you two things. You will not go overseas and you will not deploy." And I believed him. And so it was funny. As I was finishing up my training, the drill
Mhm.
sergeant starts calling out assignments. And, they're calling stateside places, Fort Hood, Fort Campbell, all these places. And I think, okay, my recruiter lived up to his promise. And they
Mhm.
go, "Gillis, Schweinfurt, Germany." I'd never even been on an airplane before. And they go, "Schweinfurt, Germany." So I raise my hand and I say, "Drill sergeant, my recruiter told me I didn't have to go overseas." And he informed me then that my recruiter was a liar. And so then I think, okay, well, he was wrong about that, but I won't deploy. And so a few months later, it was December of 2003, late December, close to Christmas. I made my way to Schweinfurt, Germany. I get off of the bus. The first sergeant meets us at the steps and he goes, "Guys, don't even worry about unpacking. We leave for Iraq in a month." And so again, I raised my hand and I said, "First sergeant, just my recruiter said I didn't have to go." And he said, "That's a bunch of baloney." So yeah. So that was kind of my child. I had a great childhood.
What was your
Uh,
MOS?
56 Mike. I was a chaplain assistant. So chaplain's a 56 Alpha. I was a 56 Mike.
Did
Um,
you
it,
enjoy your job?
I did. So chaplains are non-combatives. They don't carry a weapon. It's part of the agreement in the Geneva Convention. And
Mhm.
so it was cool for me to one get to be around a chaplain because I did have aspirations to be in ministry. But two was like he didn't have a weapon in combat, so it was a cool experience to. Essentially, that's your whole job is to protect them and be their bodyguard. So even like when we're driving in a convoy, the chaplain, no officer drives. The chaplain does drive because he can't fire a weapon. So that is the most valuable thing he can do. So he drives, and I would sit in the passenger seat with my weapon out the window, ready to engage. And so, yeah, it was a really cool experience. When I was
God bless you for that.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was difficult once the mission got going, because what you start realizing is how involved he is in death, and so he's there to bless the body. That's his care for the wounded and bless the bodies, and so that was really tough because we encountered every one of them. His job was to provide religious services, no matter where they were. So we spent a lot of times in very hostile areas because that was what the calling was for him to do. So a lot of really unique and cool experiences, a lot of near death experiences, but a lot of like it really developed me. I mean, I turned 19 while I was in Iraq, and it
Were
really
you married
I was not.
then? What did you
I was
have a
not.
girlfriend? Because that's a linkage where if you had a girlfriend, it's like it must have been something that could have caused a life-changing event over where you were that made
Yeah.
you think, I'm not gonna do this way because I want to get back home. Because it could either been a girlfriend or
Right.
family, definitely family.
Yeah, yeah, and I did, and you know, excuse me, I heard more when I got home from, especially my mother, who I didn't realize the toll it took on them, because when something happened, they blacked us out. We couldn't call home. They shut our internet down until the families were alerted, and so you know, we may go 2 days where my parents were expecting a phone call and I didn't call, and so that was such. I didn't realize how like heavy that weighed on them, because that was just part of the process for us over there. And so it was really challenging for my family while over there, because they had to deal with, he didn't call. Why didn't he call? Does that mean something happened? And it did mean something happened. July 8th of 2004, when I was over there, we had a tragedy happen that made it to the news. It was during a big operation, and we had a vehicle-borne IED explode, and it took out 5 of our guys. Um, and that made it to the news before it made it to the families. And that was troublesome to my family, because they didn't know who the 5 that were killed in action. They knew something happened where I was. And so all of us, when we got phone privileges back about 2 days later, all of us were lined up trying to call our families going, hey, I just want you to know I'm okay. Like, as a unit, we're not okay. We just lost 5 brothers, but I'm okay. I'm alive. I'm healthy, you know. So it really put a toll on them for what was taking place over there.
How long did you spend over there? One tour, tell me about the readjustment to civilian life. Tell me about the tour and how long you stayed there and the readjustment to civilian life and family life with your mother and your family.
Yeah, yeah. So we were over there 13 months. About a month of that we spent in Kuwait getting ready, but we spent a year in Samara, Iraq, is where I was. It was it's interesting because just war becomes a part of your life where you just accept it. And so they would fire mortars, which are the easiest way to think of it is bombs they would shoot out of these pipes, and they would try to launch them into our base, and you would hear the whistling sound, and we got so used to that we would have to get up in the middle of the night, we'd have to go get in a bunker, and it just became a part of disrupting our night of sleep every night. It was just what it was. Well, that year in and so while I was getting out.
Oh, can you pause there? Can you
Yes,
repeat?
ma'am.
You said that year and you paused for a second. Can you
Yeah.
continue pick up where
Yes,
you at?
ma'am. Yeah. So that year, as it came to a conclusion, one of the questions that as you leave, as they go, "Are you okay?" I was with an infantry unit, so it was all men. It was 700 men, and all of us kind of had a pact together where it's like, "Yeah, we're all good. We're going to tell them there's nothing wrong with us." And so, as I started transitioning out of the military, I knew something wasn't right. I would so I either had insomnia or I would sleep all the time. I would literally lay at the foot of my bed or by the front door in the prone position, looking out the window. In the prone position is laying on your belly as if I had a rifle, just expecting something to happen. And so that sleep began to seep into other areas of my life. I had anger problems. At this time, I was married, And so we had our first child and then our second child as I got out, and they would cry and I wouldn't know why, and it would fill me with rage. There was holes punched all in our wall. I didn't know what was going on with me. I just knew I wasn't okay, but I felt like I couldn't talk about it because there was
It
guys
was
that didn't
so
make
taboo, right?
right. You didn't talk about your feelings. You didn't talk about your struggles, especially when guys came back with very visible wounds, like they lost limbs. Some men didn't make it back, and so who am
God
I
bless them.
to share my invisible wounds? And so I bottled it all up. And ultimately, it reached this breaking point around 2009 when I felt like I was such a burden to everyone in my life. I felt like I was a burden to my kids, to my wife, to my family. And I finally reached a point where I go, here's the best solution. I will release that burden from them. I will hopefully create some sort of income from them from the VA, and I'm just going to take my life. I was so hopeless at the moment that that seemed like the best solution. And all I had was some muscle relaxers for a back injury I had. And so I took some muscle relaxers and I hoped I would fall asleep and never wake up. I woke up. I was fine and caused no damage. But my wife at the time said to me, if you don't do something, me and the boys are out of here. And I didn't want to lose my kids. They were just toddlers at the time. And so that's when I decided to go get help for the first time.
Tell me, well said, by the way, well said. Tell me about the recovery process when you got help. What year was it, and what challenges have you endured, and how have you navigated back to your family?
Yeah. So it was around 2010, 2011. I started getting help. I went to the VA for the first time, and the VA can be such a difficult place to navigate. And that's just the kindest thing I could say about it.
Yeah.
I feel like it's gotten better over the years, but it's still so difficult to navigate. But I got in, I got help, and I sat down with the doctor, and I just vented all the things I felt. So I want to go back to being happy. I want to go back to not being so unpredictable. I don't want the anger. I don't want the depression. My conclusion was I want to go back to being the happy 18-year-old I was before I joined the military. And the doctor looked at me and said, this still rings true in my life today. He said, Eric, you'll never be who you were, but you can be better. And for the first time, that awakened
That's a
something inside of
fact.
me. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it awakened something inside of me where I go, okay, I can be better. I don't have to, like, I'm not going to be the 18-year-old kid anymore. And in a lot of ways, that's a good thing. I don't know that I want to be him anymore. He was dumb and naive, but I can be better. And that became the mantra for my life. And so I just started every day living to be better. And there was little things along the way that I knew that I was healing. One was when I would get out of bed, I would make the bed. And it was such a minor thing, but it was like, okay, like that means I'm not going to go get back in it in a few minutes, which is what ultimately I would do. I'd get up, and I had ballooned to over 350 pounds. And so by 2015, I had lost 100 pounds. And so just all of these little things on the way were these triggers. Now, my marriage didn't make it. And I mean, I had done so much damage. There was no way it was going to make it. But my kids and I started rekindling. Now I've married somebody who really feels like who my soulmate was all along, who really understands me. And now I'm a healthier version of myself than I could have ever imagined. And I call that journey the rebuilt warrior, because that's what I feel like is I reached rock bottom. And what does a warrior do? Well, a warrior rebuilds and just gets back on mission. And that's what I did. I rebuilt my life into something successful. And that's the story I try to convey to others today. And so I wrote a book that conveys that message. And ultimately, I'm trying to make that story something that helps others along the way, because it's okay to not be okay. It's not okay to stay that way.
How did you recover and find love for the second time? Because I had to um, get married again. So, yeah.
Yeah. A lot of the healing helped me start to love myself again. And that was really difficult because I thought I was unworthy of anybody. I thought nobody deserves a guy like me. Nobody deserves the baggage that I come with. No one deserves the like instability that I felt like I brought. And along the way, I started learning to love myself. I started to love the strengths that I had, embrace the weaknesses, realizing that those
Tell me
don't
about
define
your
me.
SWOT, your strengths, weaknesses, and you don't have to
Yeah.
tell me the opportunities or threats, but strengths and weaknesses.
So I learned strength wise was that the military had trained in me discipline
Mm-hmm.
that was
So,
convertible to the civilian world.
mm-hmm.
I also learned that a really strength of mine is in the midst of chaos, I can actually remain calm.
Mm-hmm.
When you've lived a life where for a year you were shot at and explosions that happened and you learned how to operate in those environments, because somebody says something I don't like, or like I work at a school, because it seems chaotic because someone's upset with the environment, I can remain calm because it's not life threatening. I learned some of my weaknesses along the way too. I learned that if if I put myself in big crowds, that I'll get anxious, and so I avoid that. I learned some of the triggers towards my anger, and I try to avoid those. I also learned that I want to resolve stuff immediately. Like the mission says, this is what we're going to do, and I want to go after that and accomplish it. And I realize that the civilian world doesn't work that fast, and so I got to slow down at times. And so I learned those along the way, and that helped me love me more. When I loved me more, I began to open up, and that's where I found my wife, who both of us lived in the same area. We'd never really met. We'd met kind of through people, and we met on a. It's funny, we lived just a few miles from each other, but we met on a dating app. And the moment I met her, I knew
What's
that
that dating app? People want to know.
what's the main one? eHarmony. It was eHarmony.
Sure.
Yeah, and so we met on eHarmony, and we took it slow. I say slow. We were married within a year, but it was the first time I felt like, man, she understands me. Also, for the first time, I felt like I had somebody who would help hold me accountable too. Who's like, hey, you're starting to spiral. You need to take care of that. Like understood me, and so it was a beautiful thing, and it really helped me understand what love is, and that love starts with loving yourself. But when you love someone else and they unconditionally love you, and I think that was a struggle too, is I put so many conditions on love, like this and this, and unconditional love is so freeing. It allows you to understand people and their flaws and realize those flaws are just things that make their identity even more unique. And so, yeah, it was a beautiful journey.
What have you learned from your previous relationship that you are entitled to in your new relationship that you try to oblige by and remain consistent with that you may have lacked in your previous marriage?
Yeah, I didn't like being uncomfortable. And uncomfortable meant being in crowds, going to places that weren't familiar to me.
Hmm.
And I think what I've learned is like that just causes a wedge between you and your partner.
Hmm.
And so, what I've been really intentional about in my marriage now is to make sure that I allow myself to be in uncomfortable situations because it strengthens our bond together. And so, I'll go on little trips that I probably wouldn't have went on before. I'll run an errand with you to the grocery store. I will do things that are really uncomfortable to me, new settings, new environments. But I know that what it's doing is one, giving you the support you need, but two is building our bond even closer together. And so I realized that being uncomfortable causes you to lean into each other more. And so what I thought was something that would tear a marriage apart was I'm uncomfortable, I don't want to do this, was actually something that caused me to lean into my
You said lead into what? I'm sorry, you went out for a second.
yeah. I learned that when I am uncomfortable, it causes me to lean into my wife more. And so what I thought before was something that put a wedge between us, really and truly was something that brings us closer together. So now when I'm in uncomfortable situations, I'll lean into her more, she leans into me more, and it really has brought us closer together.
From a male perspective, do you think that you've mastered and you have challenges, but you've mastered so far being a great husband to your spouse?
I definitely think I'm a better husband. I don't know that I'll ever reach the point of being great. I do think I get, just like the doctor said, you can be better. I do feel like every day I get better because I begin to understand her wants and needs more. I've also learned how important vulnerability is in our marriage. So there's times that I open up about things that before I felt so tight-lipped on because I'm a man and I can't share those. I'll give you a great example. I'm not afraid to share this anymore. The
Mhm.
other night, I laid in bed beside her. She was asleep, but I just started crying out of nowhere. And I would have
Thank
never.
you for expressing that. Thank you for expressing.
Well, it was so healing for me. And I saw a video that made me think of my dad. And my dad passed away in 2019. And
God
I live with,
bless them.
thank you. I live with this constant question in my mind is, would my dad be proud of me today? And I saw a video and it triggered that in my mind and it just made me emotional. And instead of trying to hide that, normally I would have went to the bathroom and I would have almost slapped myself around like, man, toughen up. It was like I needed that. And so I cried for like 5 minutes and then I just wiped my tears and I went to sleep. And I felt like, gosh, I can't explain how just healing and therapeutic it was to me. And so I've learned to be vulnerable with my wife. And so I told her that I said, if you felt me shaking on the side of the bed yesterday from thought I was you didn't know what was going on. I said, here's what happened. And she goes, oh, thank you for sharing that with me. And so we talked a little bit about how that made me feel. And again, it lets her access my life more and be better at being my accountability partner and hold me and she begins to know me better. And so yeah, so vulnerability has been so key for me that makes me a better husband than I was ever before.
You're doing all of the right things, but I have another question for
Yeah.
future hiccups. Let's say, because we're both veterans, let's say something goes dark in your life where you're
Mm,
not getting the talk you need, or something just become disconnected temporarily, and you're not advocating for yourself, and you notice yourself falling back into that old pattern.
mm.
What or how will you stop it, sense it, and catch it?
Yeah, that's tough because I'm not like even to this day I'm definitely better, but I'm not perfect, and I will
Right.
find myself easily spiraling into a depression if I'm not careful.
Me too.
Um, what I have to do in those moments, and what I've consistently tried to be better about, is to immediately seek help in that moment. What I learned before my bad habit was I would spiral to rock bottom. I would seek help. I would have a therapist or someone help pull me out of that darkness. I would feel like I was good again, and I would be like, "All right, I'm done with it." And so I get counseling pretty regular now, even when I'm feeling healthy, because
Good.
I need to be able to go to someone
Yeah.
when I need help as quick as possible to help get me right on the right path. And so I've learned some things too. I've learned like my sleep patterns, if they start getting disrupted, I know something is going on with me emotionally. Or
Mhm.
when I just start withdrawing from people, I know something's wrong with me. And so there are some little signs that I've picked up on now that through therapy has kind of helped me. But yeah, if I feel myself going down that pattern, it's no longer hit rock bottom, ask for help. It is ask for help, don't hit rock bottom.
Did you hear about those psychedelics, Eric?
Yes.
Are
Mhm.
you trying to get into the program? Because they got a program, but it's a long waiting list, and you can put up to $500 for it.
Yeah, I'm really interested in it. I'm very interested in it. I have heard about all the positives. I've never met somebody personally who's been through it, but I've heard the success stories. I've seen the news where they're talking about it. I know Texas is one of the leaders in it, and so I've heard some of those leaders within Texas talking about it. I'm very, very interested in it, and it is absolutely something I would do
Me
should the
too.
opportunity
Me
present
too.
itself.
Yeah.
And
What?
I hope that it becomes more accessible for veterans because the success rate I hear on it is like in the 90 percentile. And so, my goodness, I hope that it becomes more accessible to veterans.
Tell me, like, what do you want to tell your family right now? Because we have close to 3 minutes. So, what would you like to tell your family to end the conversation about your future goals and how they intertwine? Because off camera, we were talking and discussing about you recently, June 1st, getting
Yeah.
the business and you being a middle school teacher. So mix all of that in under 4 or 5 minutes. I'll give you 5 minutes because you're a great guest.
Yeah. So To my kids, I would tell them that adversity is inevitable, but staying broken is a choice. Don't stay broken. When
Mhm.
adversity comes, allow adversity to reveal the realness of who you are, but attack it back. And if you can do that, you will find success. That is what I learned in my journey, that rebuilt warrior journey, was
Mhm.
I cannot allow myself to stay broken. What I've went through, I hope has built for my kids a foundation where they can continue to find success. And so, yeah, we bought a business that I hope one day the family is involved in more so.
Mhm.
And yep, I get to be an administrator at school, so I get to continue to pour into the lives of kids. But I want my kids to grow up knowing that their dad did everything he could to be there for them. Because there was a time when I thought that they would only hear stories about who their dad was from their grandparents and from their mother. And I'm so thankful I get to be a part of their life. I regret, so I don't remember my kids' first words. I don't remember them potty training. It was such a traumatic time in my life that literally my brain has blocked it out. But
Mhm.
I've been able
Mhm.
to enjoy the wonderful things that they're doing now. And so I celebrate them. My oldest son's going to college to play basketball. He's getting to do what I wanted to do. My youngest son lives in Washington State with his mom, and so, but he's chasing his dreams, and so the my son who lives here, stepson, we're excited about what he wants to do with his life, and my wife and I, the VA gave us the diagnosis of infertility, gave it to me from my service, and so now they're giving us IVF treatment, and so we're hoping to have another child.
Tell me about that in a short period. Yeah, tell me.
Yeah, I'll be really. So I found out my testosterone levels were super low when I was in my 20s,
Mhm.
and there was a hormonal imbalance from the stress that was caused in Iraq. It was after my kids finally. I fought with the VA for years, and they finally admitted that it was service connected, and that they would cover IVF treatment for my wife and me. And so we've been going for almost a year now. In July 8th is whenever we should have the procedure completed. And so we're excited, hopefully, I want a little girl, but we're hopefully in the next year to have a little baby. And I get to finally experience what it's like for my child to walk and say their first words. And it gave me chill bumps and it makes me emotional. I missed that. And I thought I would never get the chance to relive that. And so I'm so, as frustrated as I get with the VA, I'm so thankful that I'm going to have that opportunity to just recapture those moments that I missed.
Well said. Oh my God. So I guess it's called in vitro fertilization. And what
Yes,
they
ma'am.
do is it's a process of your stuff and her
Yeah.
stuff. Like, okay, okay.
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
They mix it in a dish and they put the baby back inside of her. So yeah, so
Very,
we're
very
looking forward to
cool.
that.
Can I ask you a question? How
Absolutely.
did you manage to pull that one off?
With the VA.
Yeah, like like real quick, because I
Yeah.
have to know because people like could be out there wondering the same thing.
Yeah. So what I've learned in my process is there's a lot of veterans, males especially, who have infertility problems
Mhm.
because of the high stress environment at such a young age. It
Mhm.
messes their hormones up. The VA will put you on testosterone replacement therapy, which is what I was on for 10 years. Um, and then that further messes your infertility up. And so I would tell any male veteran who's out there right now, don't think that there's some sort of issue with everyone else. You might be the problem. Go get checked. And if you are, the military spouse,
You said the military what, sir?
they owe that to you. You
Yeah.
gave of your freedom and you were willing to give your life. The least they can do is give back to you what you felt was robbed from you, which is being able to bring a child into this world and be able to watch that beautiful child develop into an adult.
You hear that, guys? You see what I'm saying? He's giving you some advice. So, okay, how can the people, thank you so much, by the way. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
thank you.
So, how can the people reach you if they want to learn more about you, Mr. Gills?
Yeah, so I have a website called therebuiltwarrior.com. On there, I have my story. I have an assessment you can take, which is based off of rebuilding your own life. It's free. You can download the first two chapters of my book. The book comes out September the 11th, 2000. I mean, this year, 2026. I was going to say
Oh,
because that's when I joined was September 12th, 2002. So I wanted to release it then. My wife and I, through our company, which is called Coastline Collections, are putting together this Rebuilt Warrior initiative where we're going to in the future be providing beach getaways for veterans and their families to help them rebuild and do the things that I did. And so I'll connect with them, I'll coach them, I'll help them, but mainly get them a chance to get away with their family and redo it. So all that stuff's on the website. So if they go to my website, and then if they ever need help, I am your battle buddy for life. You need something, reach out to me. I want to help you. Remember, it's okay to not be okay. It's not okay to stay that way. And so that's what I'm here to do is help you realize you're not okay. That's okay, but I'm going to help you become better.
so what's the actual website or phone number
Yeah.
or email?
So the website is therebuiltwarrior.com. And then my email is eric@therebuiltwarrior.com. But yeah, if you go to the website, social media, everything, all my stuff is on there. And so, yeah, I would love for you to do that and just connect with me and see what I can do to help. That's what I want to do for my legacy is to help others have a legacy themselves.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gill. Stay on the line. Thank you guys for joining my show
Thank you.
today. Hold on for a second. You take care. Hold on.
Yes, ma'am.